Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. Today I want to show you how to prepare your beds in the spring, it's middle of April, with manures and composts for your summer, early spring plantings. Now, the first key, and I just want to be really clear, is in the fall you could use materials that may not be 100% fully composted down because they'll sit in the garden. You just put it on top, let it sit, and come 6 months later, it's broken down. When you're setting up your beds in the spring, that's horse manure right there, you have to make sure you know that the manures or the compost you're using, or combination of both, is 100% broken down. These beds on the right have all been set up yesterday and are ready to go. I'll show you that process. If the manures and the compost are not broken down 100%, when you mix them into your soil surface 6-8 inches down, they're going to continue to break down, and as they break down, they're going to take the nitrogen from around your plants and use it in the composting process. So I know it can be confusing. When you buy compost, you think, hey, it's 100% composted, or you buy manures, you might think it's ready to go. You just have to make sure they are fully broken down so they don't challenge your plants for nitrogen. Now, that being said, how do you know? Well, you have to know your source of your manures. Let's walk over to the horse manure. I want to talk a little bit about that. So this is what remains of 2 truckloads of horse manure. Great stuff, because I know, one, it's been composting at the farm where we got it from for 2 years. So when I say your manure should have a year's worth of composting, that means a full 4 years, spring, summer, winter, and fall. It can't really be something that, was piled in the fall. It goes through fall, winter, early spring, you get it, you think it's a year old. It really needs that whole summer of warmth to fully break down. So you want manures that have a full 1 year period of breaking down. This is 2 years old, so check the box, it meets criteria. You also want to know with hay eating animals what might be on the hay, because there's a chance that they're eating hay that has herbicides sprayed on them. And you can only figure that out by asking your farmer and talking with them. The herbicides can be passed in your manures into your garden. It's possible. But again, you want to talk with the farmer, and you also want the manure to sort of lay out like this, because the UV rays do break down some of these chemicals. But it's best to know they don't have anything in there. If you're unsure, probably don't use it. If you're unsure and you want to use it, it should be 2 or 3 years composted, and you can kind of spread it out like this and let the sun beat on it for a couple of months. The UV rays do break things down, but I just want to talk about that. Other animals, goats, sheep, sometimes they don't need to have that full year of being composted down because their bodies work differently, and their manures sometimes are almost ready to go right into the garden. So you have to learn about what manures you're using in your garden. But to keep it simple, a full year of composting, no herbicides in their food. All right, let's go back to the garden. Well, I thought we should stop at my compost area. So when you're composting leaves, food scraps, grass clippings, shredded leaves, twigs, that's not manures, it's different. So you can use both, one or the other. But you have to also make sure that this is completely broken down. That's in the process of cold processing, or cold composting, which means it has to sit for a good year. But I'm going to mix that up with cut grass. I have 2 acres. I'm going to make this a hot composting area. Why am I saying that? Again, that looks okay, but that's not even nearly composted down enough. And if you mix that into your ground, it could also challenge your plants for nitrogen. So you want to just make sure, again, your manures and your composts are fully broken down. So I'm going to be making in a future video, using leaves and grass clippings and some of this material shredded up, a compost mulch where it's not fully broken down, but you can put shredded hardwood, you can put compost that's not fully broken down on top of your soil, even manures on top of your soil. If you're not planting seedlings, like if you're putting it around tomato transplants or bigger plants that have been growing on top of the soil, because it's not mixed into the root area. But I'll talk more about that in future areas. I just wanted to show you the manures and the composts and really hit home the idea that if you're mixing it into the soil 6-10 inches deep, you want to make sure it's what? Yeah, 100% composted. So here are some of my smaller beds. The horse manure is down. That's 1 to 2 inches that will be spread across the top. Now, right in there you can see some plants growing. Those were extra plants. Just pretend they're not there. I just wanted to tuck them in because I didn't have the heart to throw them away. But you would spread the manure out just across the top like that and then turn it into the ground. You don't want to be planting seeds right into the soil. You know, if you're doing that, I'm sorry, you don't want to be planting seeds right into compost or manures. You do want to mix it in. But this whole setup here really is more for, you know, the transplants that you've been growing. Okay, let's walk over to this pile. This is when I'll do the example. Again, we're going to spread that out across the box. I'm going to turn it into the ground 6 to 10 inches. And when I'm done, it's going to look something like this. Ready to go. So 1 to 2 inches is all you need spread out. This is probably getting 3 inches. You might have noticed some rocks in there too. As you're getting manures from different places, you'll find different debris in there. A couple of rocks isn't going to make a difference, but that's really, really good stuff. So now I'm going to turn it over. Now, a couple of things. This is a 2nd year garden. So when I turn this over, you're going to see some red clay in there. For the first 2 years, I do recommend turning your soil about 10 inches down, working the manures and composts into the top. After this year, going into my 3rd year, I'm going to be turning my beds into no-dig gardens. So I'll just be laying compost and manures on top of the soil, mulching, and letting the earthworms and biology just pull everything down. But for the first 2 years, or if your soil's not the best quality or you're just adding in manures for the first time, I do recommend mixing it in. And then when the soil gets to a good quality, all you have to really do is put stuff on top of it in the fall, plant in the spring, and you just keep that cycle going and you're going to have wonderful earth that you don't need to keep turning. So what you want to see when you turn it over is a lot of earthworms. And you can see, let's see if we can get that, lots of heavier clay in there. Now clay is really good for your garden, believe it or not, unless it's just clay and that's it, because it has so many micronutrients in there. But this is why I like to turn my beds here in Maryland Zone 7 for the first 2 years, just to mix all this organic matter up. Come next year, I'm just going to be putting composts and manures right on top and throughout the season and letting it, rest. Now when you're in here looking around, you want to make sure you see lots of worms. That's great. You're also going to probably see a bunch of, see if I see any, a bunch of those white larvae in there. You can't do anything about it. Don't panic. They're just going to be in your ground all over the place. It just shows that you have great soil and you got all kinds of stuff growing in there. So we're going to rake this over, loosen it up, let it sit. So here's the bed set up with horse manure. Now you can do this with manures, compost, combination of both. And notice I haven't put down any organic fertilizer, none of the granular fertilizer. This saves you a lot of money. Getting manures delivered, getting them in bulk, getting them for free is so much more cost effective and so much more better, I guess, for your soil than just throwing down the organic granular type fertilizer. This feeds the microbes, takes care of the soil life, gives back to your plant, creates great structure, and again, 2nd year of getting this area ready, I'm not going to have to dig anymore. Here's some of the grubs I was talking about. You're going to find those in your soil. Not much you can do about that, don't worry about it. But this is set up and ready for planting. Generally speaking, you want to do this about 4 weeks before you plant, but you could really plant in here right away because everything again is 100% composted down. If you give it a couple of weeks, it'll be rained on, mix things together. The worms, soil life will kind of mix through everything, and you're good to go. Now when you come to planting, I'm going to be putting a lot of transplants in here. That would be a time where I might throw in some more compost, more manure into the planting hole, or even a handful of the organic granular fertilizers, which is fine to use there because you're just concentrating a couple tablespoons right here. Saves you money. One bag will go a long way than casting it all over. You just don't need to do that. Now that everything is mixed in, I could plant seeds right on top of here. So I just want to be clear early in the video, you don't want to plant seeds right on top of manures, but once you mix it in and you have a nice loose soil, you can put seeds down on here too. But these are my warm weather crop beds. These are mostly going to be transplants. I'll be doing some direct sowing this year, so I'll show you how I put in cucumbers and zucchini in here. But now I have one behind me, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 beds here, 3 beds over there, a manure, and 2 in another place. So I'm good to go for the warm season. Hope this video was helpful, gives you some confidence in using manures and composts in your raised beds or in your garden beds. Please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com, and please subscribe to my channel. I'll be showing you how I fill these beds step by step over the season. Thanks again for watching.